What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to BigTrainHawaii's YouTube channel, and welcome back to the train layout. Alrighty, this is layout update number 1 for y'all, and I have some really awesome stuff to show you guys in this video today. I'm going to be mostly talking about the brand new hillside scenery that I've been working on for the last few months. I'm going to start by talking about the groundwork, how I laid out the hill, the plastering, and then eventually getting to the ground cover and laying down my ballast. Fortunately, I've been able to reuse quite a bit of the material from my previous layout, mostly the ballast, as well as some previous rock molds that I've used and was going to implement on the old layout. Some new things that I've recently added were the trees, as well as this corner piece here that I call Bagge's Corner, which is going to help tie in my fall background to the layout. Watching the trains roll through the scenery, you may think that this is complete, but I don't think so. I want to add in some details as well as implement some other man-made structures into the scene to really give it a real world appearance. But I got to tell you, watching the trains running through these scenes, especially watching these videos back, makes me feel like that I'm actually looking at the real thing. Also, while I was recording this video, I've been posting a lot of this on my Instagram, and I've been receiving a lot of good comments, a lot of high praise, as well as some good feedback about the hillside. And I'm really thankful for your guys' continued support, and I just want to thank you guys in this video. If you guys are watching, thank you guys very, very much. This video is not just a layout update as well. I also have a really cool surprise at the end of this video. If you guys are sticking around for the entire video, then stick around for that surprise. If not, if you guys want to just see the surprise, I'll put a little time card in the description so you guys can just go ahead and see that surprise. Alrighty guys, well, enough of me rambling on. Let's get into the layout update, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Since my last video was back in December of 2024, I've just been enjoying running the trains again, looking over at all my rolling stock that I recently converted to KD couplers, and finally be able to run them on the train layout. And then also working out a few bugs and gremlins that popped up while I was working on the layout that needed to be taken care of. And just overall, after that, I was just running the trains and enjoying a lot of running sessions. Running the trains again was great, but I knew that I wanted to get back to work on the layout. So sometime in mid-January, I decided to get back and get started on doing some scenery, and this front table for the hillside scenery is where I started. The front table of the layout is built in an L girder style. This type of benchwork allowed me to implement a track platform supported by these risers mounted underneath using 1x3 scraps. Making the benchwork this way allowed me a few accessible things to like wiring, as well as being able to implement a few extra places for storage. But the main reason was so that way I could bring trackside scenery below track level. The hillside started by taking discarded cardboard boxes that I had lying around the house, cutting them up into 1.5-inch strips, and began weaving them in a pattern to form a lattice looking web. And then from there, I stapled them and hot glued them to the track platform. After finishing the framework on both sides of the hill, I decided to add packing paper that I had lying around from train orders, use that as another base so that way it would cover the lattice, but also to be used as a base for when I lay over the wet plaster cloth. So that way the wet plaster doesn't drip through the holes in the webs and onto the carpet, which would create a mess. One of the newest additions to this layout is this little display area that I plan on using to help tie the main layout to the background. Now this area is just going to be a display. There's going to be a trackside industry going in this corner with some track to provide a little bit of action for the industry. It's going to be mainly used to store some additional freight cars and maybe an engine or two. While I was working on that display table, I was still working on the other side of the table, finishing up the hillside so that way I could get ready and get started on laying down the plaster. When it came time to plastering the hillside, I went with a method that I saw Rich Batista use in his Toy Trains on Track series, where he took paper towels and mixed it with the plaster of Paris. Using paper towels, for one, helps me with saving money for not buying the actual plastic cloth, but also, two, it allowed me to use some household essentials that I had around the house. One full roll of paper towels could cover one side of the hill and then half on the other side of the hill. After covering the hillside, I wanted to kind of try out something that I wanted to implement on the other side of the layout where the water tower would be. And that was to build a little hillside. So I decided to go ahead and build this one that you see here that I'm calling Bagge's Corner. Now, it is called Bagge's Corner because it was made entirely of paper bags that I had lying around the house. And since they weren't being used, I figured I'd take them down to the layout and I used them in such a way to make my hill. I was happy with how the base of the hill turned out, so I started with the next step, which was to plaster cloth the entire hillside. I had these rock molds that were made for the old 8x12 layout being put to good use for the new layout. So I started with laying out what I wanted to for the hillside and just whatever castings was available. I decided to make new ones. And after that, just started with messing around with my colors and figuring out what I wanted to color the hill with. I used a combination of colors from black, gray, burnt umber, as well as burnt sienna to sort of tie in the layout with the rocky feel of coal country. But the black rock kind of reminds me a little bit of home. Since I live here in Hawaii, we are mostly used to seeing black lava rock. So it kind of has a little connection for me back home, although this layout is based on coal country. I had to check for clearance just to make sure my articulators was going to clear the hillside, as well as give a little bit of a test to see how they would look against the new scenery. When it came time to laying down a bit of color on the layout, I decided to go with a few things. One is this little foliage moss thing, I guess. I found it on Amazon and it looked kind of cool. It's actually something that you would see on maybe like a military diorama for or something. The other thing was the trees. All the trees are from Woodland Scenics. I bought them all as tree kits, and the foliage was bought separately. Some of the trees have foliage, some of them don't, but I think it really helps with the fall theme because you'll see some trees with the colors of the autumn season, as well as some trees that are just with their leaves and limbs no more. So it works out very nicely. When it came time to laying down the ground cover, I decided to start with laying down a base color, which was black latex, and then begin blending the earth turf and green turfs together to form my base for the ground cover. After that, I decided to put in some rock molds and cover those with some green coarse turf to sort of blend in the rocks so that way they would work out very nicely with the scenery. For the ballast, I decided to recycle this ballast that I made from the old 8x12 and reuse it on this layout. The gray ballast will be used mainly for the main line, while the rest of the layout is going to be covered with cinders. While the fine sand is being used for my roadbed, the coarse sand is also being used for this layout. It'll primarily be used for my coal loads that I'll eventually make, but I also used it for this rock area over here that's on the other side of the layout. The idea for this part of the layout was to make it so that the main line was running right next to a small creek. The creekside scenery is going to run from my display shelf all the way to where these trees are. These trees are also woodland scenic trees mixed in with a little bit of green foliage, dark green foliage, and a bit of light green foliage. As I'm recording this video, plans are still being put together about what I'm going to do for the rest of the layout. The next area of the layout that I'm planning on working on is going to be the station area. I want to get back to working on buildings again, and the station area is a perfect area to start. But I also want to finish up the buildings that I started on the old 8x12, get those done so that way they are detailed and weathered, as well as they are going to help me with finalizing some areas in the town area that I want to put up. Plans are underway for the rest of the layout, but for now, I'm just going to enjoy the layout and the scenery that I've gotten done so far, as well as enjoy that little surprise that I mentioned. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really appreciate you guys' continued support, both on my Instagram as well as on here. But I'm going to sign off for now, and I'm going to show off that little surprise for you guys, like I promised. So I won't know when the next layout video will be, but I'll try to get one out as soon as I finish a few other things on the layout. But for now, I'm just going to shut up and let you guys enjoy that little surprise. So this is Big Train here, signing off. I'll see you guys in the next video.